Oh, Outliers. It's good to be with you. It's me, Niiamah. Hey, Niiamah Ashong here. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey. You know, I like to have fun here, Outliers. And the reason for this year is because I take this so seriously that I need to play. You know, otherwise it ends up being too much of what we don't want it to be. And what we want it to be is an engaging, uplifted, and unconventional conversation amongst three people on this Outliers Edge podcast roundtable, right? Today, we have three amazing outliers who are going to share more about how they see the world in order to continue to uplevel their impact, their income, and their identity. I'd love for you to get to know these outliers right now, and let's jump into the conversation. Why don't we start with you, Neil? Would you mind sharing more about you and the game that you're currently playing, Neil?
Absolutely. Thank you, Niiamah, for having me. This is super exciting. I love what you're doing, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Again, my name is Neil Hopson. On stage, they call me Neely Time, but you got to say it like Neely Time.
Neil
well,
time.
Neely, there you go. That's good. That's great. So I've been radio and on stage, on air. They call me Neely Time, and I love adding value to people, creating experiences, impacting people's lives, bringing hope and joy and love and peace through the tools that I have in my belt to do that through my company, One Goal Global. We've been able to impact people's lives across the globe, whether it's corporations, ministries, different organizations. It could be a small group, or it could be a stadium full of 25,000 people. I've been able to really just function in my gift and to add value. So that's what I really love to do. I'm a John Maxwell leadership certified coach for about 4 years now. I get to work hand in hand with John and Mark and the team and Chris Robinson to add value to people so they can multiply that value to others through their different conferences and podcasts and things of that nature. So excited to do that. As well as just kind of rolling in my gift as a speaker, MC, I live DJ in the company with a couple of different friends that I bring along, as well as creative direct. So I get to do a lot of different things within this tool belt, but it's all about adding value to people, creating these experiences so people can feel better as they leave. They can feel more engaged. So that's one of the things I do. I'm a husband of 15 years. I'm a father. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And her name is Gabriella. And I'm loving life right now. It's been a change going full time into this business for this, I guess, a couple weeks to be the top, will be a full year now. And it's stretched me. It's grown. It's grown me quite a bit. And I'm excited about the process and learning to enjoy the process a little bit better. Because Niiamah, the process is the destination, really. The journey is the destination. Sometimes we want to get to this thing, and God's like, hey, just slow down a little bit, enjoy where you are, and take it one step at a time.
No, here's so the different steps here. You talked about it stretching you throughout this process. I think it'd be really, really helpful for outliers to see the stretch here, and like it's cool to catch you a year into this particular iteration, because it almost like timestamps a bit of the journey here, and I can't wait for outliers to come back later on, find this episode, be like, wait, he was where in just 1 year. Um, so Neil, thank you for being here. Thanks for playing this game with us.
Absolutely.
Liv, let's come to you. Tell us more about you and the game you're currently playing.
Hello, my name is Liv. I currently have a podcast called Live in Vibrancy, and I can definitely relate to what he's saying about using your gifts to be able to bring people closer together, which is what my podcast is about. I like to share my experiences that I've dealt with throughout life and my lessons that I've learned, and to bring others a place of clarity and also allowing them to not feel alone with the things that they've experienced. I took a break for a while, but I'm coming back to it now as bringing God into it more than I was before, because I feel before I was just coming from a place of wanting to help, but now it's learning the foundation of where the help is coming from and being able to implement that more into other people's lives by sharing the gospel and things like that. So I'm currently also in the process of becoming a leader in evangelizing with different people and spreading the gospel in that way as well. So Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I can also relate to Outliers as well because I am also a makeup artist. I do body paint and face painting and things like that. And that's not usually something that you hear a lot about. So that is also a tool that I feel like God is using with my gifts to be able to introduce his word and his calling in a different light, because I do feel like we all have different gifts and different ways of bringing people together. So I'm just learning to cultivate and perfect my craft right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, Liv, I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for bringing all of you to this conversation.
Mm.
There's so much that I want to play with as we talk, and I think that it'd be cool to just see how you're navigating all this. Thank you so much for being here. And then Victoria, help us get to know you. Tell us about the game. Tell us about you and the game that you play.
Hi, Niiamah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on this podcast. So, currently, I am on break. I have a podcast called Journeying Together, which, similar to Liv, is really about bringing individuals into the space and really building community about our shared struggles and how we can be able to be companions to each other and learn from the different experiences that we have and be able to take that with us as we continue on our different journeys. And so, I'm kind of in a place of really redefining where I want to go with that. And so that has been a time for me to really take a step back and be a little bit more intentional about it. But the game that I want to play, which I think is one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is really designing and developing mental health frameworks that can be used to inform policy in African continent. And so I want really to bring different stakeholders to the table and say, this is the continent, these are the issues that we are facing. How can we use mental health as a framework and embed that to make sure that we have sustainable development as we try to really rebuild the region, right? How does mental health impact what we can do? So I want to be able to develop and have those mental frameworks that can be implemented across the region of Africa.
Well, Victoria, it's wonderful to be in space with you, and I see you see you in your mission, both in your conviction and just like and how you're the person for it. So thank you very much for bringing that in. I I I I get that everyone here is living for something larger than themselves. And I'm truly grateful that you are all in this space. I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. Um, I thought I had a question to start out with. I was just like, I'll toss this one out here because I wanted to see where you all were with it. But two of you mentioned the word gifts as you were bringing it in, and I want to actually start off in that place here. Right. So I think the elements of gifts here, um, you said you function in your gift, right? And so
Sure.
I'm really curious here. Let's start off with that component here of just like claiming the gifts that you have and seeing how you bring it all together. Neil, I'd like to start off with you, and then I'm going to just like let the conversation evolve from there. You'll see me go on mute. Y'all just take it from there. But I'd like to start with you because you mentioned a bunch of different things that you did, right? But it also like from DJing to speaking to like, MCing and all this other stuff, right? But it also seemed like it just like also only just one thing that you did, which is just to create like amazing experiences for people. So I'm curious about your gifts, how you're leveraging it, and then really how you end up packaging it so that other people are able to like to understand it and take you up on it. So you want to get us started
Sure.
on that, Neil?
No, that's a great question. I think even what you mentioned understanding it. One thing about being an outlier is that many people won't understand it. There's things that you do and things that you're gifted at, and not everything's natural because some people say, "Oh, you're so gifted, you're so natural at doing this," and it's like, well, yeah, kind of, but I work really hard at developing the gift. Leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And how do you gain influence? Is by getting good at something. That's one of the ways, and it's developing that thing, putting the reps in. I always say it's not rocket science; it's reps. And once you start to, get those reps in, you start to develop the gift, and that gift will start to make room for you. So it'll, allow you to get into different rooms, different spaces and places. And then it's up to you to cultivate the gift, because the gift is not for me. The gift is for other people. And God has gifted me with different things that I can do. So what I've worked really hard at and still working at is how to consolidate that thing and point it in the same direction and focus it. So it's not everything and everywhere, but it's one focused thing. So that's what One Goal Global does. We create experiences to engage people and really to add value to people. And that means something different to different audiences and different groups. But the gift about being an outlier, the gifts are unique. And not everybody can do what Liv does, was just body paint, right? Not everybody can do what Victoria does, which is have a passion to bring change to the continent of Africa. So if you can use your gift to impact other people, then you're actually onto something. Because so many of us, a lot of us look at the gifts to serve us, and they're not meant to do that. And on the flip side of that coin, one of the things I had to realize is that I am not my gift. The gift is awesome, but it's very easy to identify yourself, your potential, your worth with your gift. And if it's working, it's going great, awesome. But if it's not going so well, then you start to feel different about yourself. And so I had to detach myself from my gift and remember that as a tool to use to help and reach other people.
Thanks for getting us started on this one here. We're going to keep playing with this in a bit. Liv, Victoria, I'm curious about any of your thoughts related to gifts and how y'all navigate it.
So there was a lot of stuff that stuck out to me with what he was saying. One of them that stuck out the most was putting your identity into the gift. Because it's very easy to do that whenever people see you, they're like, oh, I know you by this. Or if you're not doing that, they're like, oh, well, why aren't you doing it? And it's like, well, I don't really do that like 24/7. Like I do live a normal life, but at the same time, that is your brand. That is who you that's a piece of your identity, but it's not who you are as a whole. And another thing that stuck out to me too was him saying that your gift is not for you, it's for others. And I think it kind of ties in together, but having that kind of detachment from it allows for you to be a normal person and then also have your business hat on whenever it's time to. And to be able to separate that helps you to move forward with uh, I guess business in a better way than putting your identity in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's like it's easy to be like, well, if they don't accept my gift or rejecting my gift, they're rejecting me. It's kind of like, no,
right.
that's not necessarily the case, and to detach from it a little bit. But I love what you're saying there. Yeah.
And just to also jump in, I think that all great points. One of the things that when I think about gifts, so I was raised by both my parents are pastors, so I grew up in the church. Being able to recognize that you could have a gift, but the important thing is really being able to continue cultivating that gift. And I love the point that was raised that the gift is not for you, but the gift is really for other people. So we get these gifts to be able to serve, right, and be able to identify who is the community that I have been given this gift for, because sometimes you may have this brilliant gift, but where you're using it or where you're taking it, that's not where you're supposed to use it. And so sometimes you get frustrated because the outcomes that you're expecting from this gift that you're like trying to give to the world, you're not really ministering or operating in the environment that you're supposed to be operating. So really always being mindful, always really thinking deeply, always being in your spirituality, being able to understand, is this the place for the gift? Is this the time to use the gift? Am I cultivating the gift? It also, one of the things that I like to say is that all the things that we do, right, add up. So currently I run a nonprofit. It's called Women Centers International. Even though the game that I want to play, I'm not playing it right now, but I also want to recognize that the things that I'm doing today are going to really add up towards that bigger goal and that bigger mission and that gift that I have. So really being intentional about the things that I do, the things that I give my time to, the things that I give my space to, the people that I give my space to, recognizing that all these things are really developing this gift. And the goal is wherever it is that I'm supposed to land, eventually I'll land there. But I'm taking those small steps each and every single day to add to that bigger goal.
Yeah. I think it's good. Like a lot of times our destiny is camouflaged by those daily habits, by those daily reps that sometimes we can overlook very easily. I remember when I was getting in, before I got into radio, I went from, a professional tennis career, very short professional tennis career, into working in car sales. We're talking about the contrast. I was at Mercedes-Benz for 8 years, and it was hard for me to detach from that. Hey, you're going to be a professional tennis player. That's all I was told since I was 6 years old. And so many athletes, so many people that pursue things at a young age, and that's like kind of like identity comes to a point of that transition where it's like, okay, I have to let this thing go, either by choice or by not. And who am I after this? And I talked to a lot of athletes, a lot of professionals where they're still young because you think that when you're younger, this is going to be my life. And you realize your career is like this short in that thing. And then now it's like, I'm still young. Now what do I do? Who am I? I'm always known as that person, like you said, Liv. But how do I take on a new identity? How do I move forward and not shrink back because people have this idea of who I am? And now it's like changing it up. So I went from that to car sales to radio, which I didn't know all the things that I was doing in car sales, was developing a rapport very quickly with people, befriending people using shorter words to get to all that was preparing me for radio and what I'm doing now. So you never know, what God's preparing you for. You just have to be faithful in what he's given you.
There's a couple things here that I want to play out and bring into the spotlight for us outliers. One of them, Neil, was where you just ended here, which was like you come off as like an energetic, charismatic person who's like okay, yeah, like it's like, oh, I want to listen to Neil. Like it feels like he has some good energy to him. All right. But what you actually put in toward the end were like, here's some specific things that I'm doing that have taken you from like kind of like unconsciously competent, like you're like, I don't know, like people just like being around me, to like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm building rapport in a very short period of time. I'm very conscious about the words that I choose to use. I use short words for a reason, right? It's not just that I happened. There are things that you're doing intentionally, and I think this goes back to what you're saying earlier around like you work really hard at developing the gift, right? And outliers, I want to call in this. I want to just use this here so that I'm not a big fan of just like the high level ideas. I'm like, here it is in application. This is it right now. And so what you might be experiencing around Neil, he's letting you know like this is what's actually happening underneath the surface here. It comes off in one way, but this is what is actually happening underneath it. Neil, since I brought you into spotlight specifically with this, I wanted to see if you want to elaborate on any of
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I think that's a great evaluation. John Maxwell says, you people always say, I want to do what you do. And he says, okay, but do you want to do what I did? And many people don't. Honestly, they want the result. They want the 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, but all of those things make a difference of how you do what you do, and the intentionality that you use to get a certain result. Sometimes you don't know it's happening in the moment, and then you start to realize like, okay, now I can cultivate this thing. But if you are intentional about, like, say, for instance, if you're a speaker, which I communicate quite a bit, I look at a lot of different range of speakers. I look at a lot of comedians. And I study their timing. I study the words, their vocabulary. Reading helps. Like if you do all of these things, eventually, if you put in those reps, you'll start to see some receipts in your life. You start to see, I'll say, okay, this is working. And when I do this, this particular result happens. So what I try to do is be very intentional about practicing, and not to people please, but to just hone my craft to get good at it. And I'm learning. I'm a work in progress like everybody else, but it's very intentional, of what I do and how I do it now, especially with time being, it's so little time these days and so many distractions. It's kind of like I need to really be able to focus in on it. So I think radio has helped me do that. And I just try to, develop it the best I can.
Yeah, so outliers. I'm also going to point out one other thing here. Then, Victoria, you said something that I want to toss for all of us to play with. One of the things that got me was when you're like, I listen to like comedians and I study them, right? And I think that's really cool because some of us, we were probably watching the same exact like act or set, and some of us are like, okay, I just need to like decompress, and others are listening like, okay, like, why was that funny? Let me go back. What did
Yeah.
they do in that case to get me to like stop washing the dishes, which I was doing passively, to actually like pay attention. What happened there? You know,
Even like comedians, preachers, politicians, any communicator, you can, even if you whether you agree with them or not, it's like you can actually learn from them. So I think that's good. Yeah.
I love that there. So like, and so Outliers, where I'm going to come for you is like, it's like your gift may not be in the communication element in the same kind of way, but like there are probably things that you are doing where your gift can be honed, your craft can be honed. And I want to just like, I want to invite you to like think about what that might be for you, and to see like, essentially, I just want us to be like the people in your corner who may not be there on a day to day, saying like, we see you getting better. Like, keep at it. Like, know that you can do it intentionally. Like, your people out here, us outliers, like this is what we do. We find opportunities all around us to keep growing. And if you're doing that in whatever your field of your craft is, know that like we see you, like we're with you, and we're doing our reps with you as well. And if you realize that like, oh, I might have been doing this, but I haven't been doing that intentionally, welcome to this part of the game. Like it's good to have you out here. We can keep playing with each other. So thanks, Neil. Thanks for making that real for us here. All right.
Absolutely.
Victoria, you earlier said something that I thought was really cool, which is around like not just cultivating the gifts, but like identifying the community who the gift is for. And I really like that, Victoria. Mainly because right now I'm working with a lot of people on their businesses, working with people with the podcast, and just helping them to make their impacts out in the world. And what's coming to me is a lot of times people will say like, you got a niche, you got to find your niche. And there's something about the thing about niche right now that's kind of irking me. I'll be honest, I haven't really said that when it irks me, because it feels like it's like if you've done anything in business and then you want to become a business coach or some sort, you're like, well, you have to have your niche. If you don't have your niche, I can't talk to you. And it's like, no, like, can you help me get that, or whatever it is, right? And there's something about the way that you said identify who the community who it is, the community that identify the community who the gift is for, that I thought was like a really refreshing way of looking at that niche element, right? It's like, look, you can do a lot of things and help a whole lot of people, but like, who is this actually for? I'm curious, Victoria, since you brought this in here, do you mind like sharing more about your thoughts on it? And then I'm going to go to Neil and Liv. I want y'all to just keep elaborating on it. But Victoria, would you mind, like that really struck me when you said it. I just think it's a different way of getting to the same thing that people are looking for. It just feels more holistic and actually just like very relatable.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know, what do I say? I think I really look at it from a standpoint of, it's maybe a garment, right? If I'm making a dress, or I'm making pants, or I'm making shoes, right? It's not, there's no one size fits all, right? This is really going to be a product that has a certain market and a certain fit to it. And so if I'm taking a product that's maybe meant for kids, and then I'm putting it in the adult department, nobody's going to buy that product because it's not in the right place. So I have to be able to understand, this is the product that I have. What is the market, and who is going to be able to access that product and actually utilize that product. So I look at it from that standpoint, that whatever gifts that we have, it's a product, and it's a product that needs to have a home. And so where is that product supposed to be, and where is it supposed to be positioned? And that's how I try to look at my gift and understand, if it's mental health and wellness in that framework that I'm trying to develop, what is it that my calling has been designed for? Has it been designed for the US? It's not the market for it. The market that in my spirit I have is that it's needed in the continent, in Africa, because that's where I'm from, and that's where my spirit has led me to do it. And so even if I do it 1,001 times and it's perfect and it's amazing, if the community is not the right community, it's not going to give me the outcome as well as the peace and the satisfaction that I'm supposed to get from it.
That's good. Come on, Victoria. Seriously. And you know what? That is sometimes it takes people a long time to figure that out because, we like to be all things to all people. And even like when it comes to even going viral, I had a person that's really good at social media. They were telling me, they're like, hey, if you're going to post this and you're going to make this video and this content, it's good what you're saying, but he's like, you got to narrow it down. You got to point to a certain specific audience, even with your hashtags. It's like, you got to make sure you're locked into this audience. And then if it spills over and it goes viral because other people catch a hold to it, great. But if you're trying to just do everything and trying to get everybody everywhere, you're going to be shooting your arrows so many different places, and you're not going to hit anything. So I like what you said. Hey, the product needs to be in the right place. And I think that was genius. It's great.
I would
Appreciate it.
also like to add that your gift is for who you used to be. So we go through a lot of experiences in life where we're purging out a lot of old things and becoming who God has truly called us to be. And with that process, in those times, there, God sent people to us to help us through those experiences or to be able to teach us certain lessons so that we can pass that on to others later and to be that person for them. And then the cycle kind of continues from there. But also with the what he was talking about before with the different journeys that he went on and how all of those journeys kind of helped him to become who he is now and what he's doing now. All of it is intentional to be able to create what your gift is. And I do feel like your gift is something that you're kind of born with, but over time it does grow into something bigger. And then you see the full picture, and then that's when you're able to fully walk in your purpose.
I'm
That's
loving this
good.
this conversation right here. Something here, Victoria, that is coming. When you brought up the idea of like the kids' clothes in the adult department, one, let me just say, like I enjoy what part of your gift here because I could tell that you weren't expecting me to ask you that question, and at the same time you were able to share it back with us in a way that was very relatable. I think like we've all gone out to like in some way, shape, or form, like we got it. We got what it was like to be in a store and it's the right thing in the wrong place and it just doesn't make sense. And what was going on through my mind was it's not to say that if you put kids' clothes in an adult's department, zero people are going to buy it. It's just that like you're going to have that one person that's like, oh, yeah, you know what, this is cute. Like I wasn't thinking about it, but I could give this as a gift or something. And I think that like sometimes like as you put it in that context, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of times we get accidental wins and we confuse that for like for us actually being good or whatever it is. And it's like it's not going to work. It's just probably not like you probably would have gotten rid of that way faster if it was where people were actually looking for it when they were in that frame of mind. So I love hearing this here. Um, you have a big mission, Victoria. And as much as you say that you're not like you want to be doing this, I also see you in the doing of it. There's probably more practical ways that you want to be out there playing with it and such. But I want to speak to you in this because I get that you're someone who carries big missions with you, right? How do you navigate? This doesn't have to just relate to the gifts now here, but how do you navigate like stepping into becoming like the person who is taken on like honestly shifting the way that people look at mental health and across the continent? Like how do you take that on? How do you like go through the process of becoming a person that says, yeah, this is for me. This is where I'm stepping into.
Can you reframe that?
Yes, I
I
can.
want to be able to like really process it.
Yeah. I think where I'm coming from here is we're catching you right now in a place where you say that this is what I want to do, and yet at the same time, like I get that if you were doing it, you would be doing it, right? And so I guess the question that's in my mind right now is I'm thinking about any outlier who also has a big mission and is asking themselves right now, like, how can I, you know, do X, Y, Z? Who am I to be doing X, Y, Z? Right. And because you position yourself as someone that's like entering into that space, I want to ask you about how you're navigating that internally to step up to play on such a like to make an impact on such a large stage. Are you good with that? Does that help in the clarification?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know what you're going to say,
So
so there's no.
So what really happens to me often, which I have been really meditating a lot upon and really praying about it, is that I've had to learn to quieten a lot of voices. When you have such a big mission, you look at yourself and you're like, who am I to say that I should be thinking about this giant thing? You look at yourself and you assess yourself and you measure yourself according to the standards of the world, conducting to other people who are maybe in that same field. And sometimes you feel inadequate, right? Those are things that happen to you all the time. So there's a lot of internal conflict, and you continuously try to say, how best do I navigate that? Which voices should I quieten and which voices should I allow to continue to speak to me? Sometimes you have to be able to understand, how do I close the eye gates, the things that I see, the things that I hear, the spaces that I operate and exist in, those can be barriers towards taking you away from really pursuing or exploring that mission. And so I try to be a little bit more intentional about who is it that I'm speaking to. If I have this seed that I want to plant, who is the person that I'm supposed to trust with that message and be in my corner? Who is the community that I'm going to speak to that's going to encourage me, that's going to water the seed? Where is the soil that I can plant that seed? So it's really thinking a little more deeply about it, like it is a seed. How best do I cultivate it, make sure that it doesn't die before it has had the opportunity to really take root and be able to blossom and to become this giant tree? So it's really closing my eye gates, closing my ear gates, allowing myself to um, give space to the voices that are supposed to be louder, and then quietening those that are supposed to be quiet, and just really trusting that whatever it is that deposited that idea and thinking and that thought into me, right, is greater than me. So if I have that idea and if I have that thought, why can I not do it? It means that there's somewhere inside of me where that is supposed to be who I am. And so I'm already walking in that purpose. It just is going to take a while before I can actually be able to come to that full actualization. But I've already been given that seed. So it's up to me to make sure that I cultivate it. But if it's in me, it means that I can do it.
Yeah, there's
Good.
something I get about you, Victoria, that is like, it's come up in almost every answer that you've given, which is like you're very intentional. I hear like the intentionality that comes through on you. I just want to make sure I'm reflecting that back here. You're like, well, if I have this seed, like, where's the best soil? Who do I want to talk to? Where does this go here? You're not just like running at something there, but you're taking the time to prepare beforehand and actually like identify the best places for it to go, or the best people to be champions of that. I want to put that into this space here just as a reflection as we come in, because I see that as one of your like one of the gifts that you carry with you. There's like if I'm you're calling me into questioning like where can I be more intentional along the way? How can I move forward with that in there to get higher leverage from every action that I take and make sure that it's actually building along in a meaningful way. So I wanted to say thank you for that as we go on.
Can I make a comment on that?
Please, Neil.
I love the answer, Victoria. I love the question as well. And I love how you're cultivating the gift, but you're protecting the seed as well. And as an outlier, it's not easy to be understood all the time because you're not in the crowd, you're an outlier. And there's so many opportunities for us to be discouraged and to give up prematurely because people don't understand. And honestly, God didn't give that to them to understand. You know, He gave it to us to walk with and to run with and help flush out. So getting in the right soil is so key, because I know as a creative, and Liv, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. If you share something with someone, even that you love and trust, too quickly and prematurely, then their opinion of it, when it's not in its final form, can stagnate or abort that particular dream. So I'd be very intentional on who I share with and what stage in the process I share something with to get their feedback, because if I'm not sure in it and then their response is not what I was hoping for, then sometimes I'm kind of like, maybe it's not a good idea, or maybe I'm too ambitious, or maybe I should go be more normal. It's like, no, I'm an outlier. I can't expect you to understand this, but you get to a certain point, you have trusted friends and mentors and people that you can share parts of it with, so it can help you develop that thing. But when you do it is very important as well of who you do it with. So I love that thought.
I can definitely relate to what you're saying about having too many voices in your ear, because I feel like that's the phase of life that I'm in right now, where I feel like God has removed me from a lot of people's opinions that I was holding more dear to me than His opinion of me and His identity that He's called me to be. And with that, not everybody's going to understand your assignment on this earth. And that doesn't mean that you don't have one. That just means that that's not your audience. That's not the people that you're called to help. And even if they don't understand at that time, they will later. But whenever you hold other people's opinions closer to God than God's, you kind of make an idol out of it. And He doesn't want you to have any idols outside of Him. So with that, when where I am right now, it's really about God's voice being the loudest than anyone else's. And it's not to say that other people around you aren't going to be important, but understanding your identity in Him, I feel, is what helps you to stand out unapologetically, because that's what He's ultimately called for us to do. And that's how we're going to be able to make that impact, is by not really wanting to fit into the crowd and understanding that that's not who He wants us to target either, because there are a lot of people out there that don't have people to talk to, or people that even understand the journey that they're on. And I think that that's where we come in to remind them, like, hey, it's okay that you're in this space right now. You might not understand where you are, but just be present, because if you're not present, then you're going to miss a lot of lessons that you need to learn right now for the next phase of your life. And every phase, we need to hone in on those tools and those lessons so that we can kind of have a one up in the next season, so that it's not we're starting from scratch every time. No, you're starting from a place of knowledge and wisdom that you learned from the previous seasons. So, yeah.
So I actually, I really appreciate all of you here. Y'all have taken this conversation, and honestly, it's been incredibly refreshing talking to you here. I think Outliers, like, I'm going to make an ask of you. We're going to start wrapping up the conversation. The ask I have here is, like, I have found this conversation to be a true gift. I enjoyed, like, on the meta, or maybe not so meta, maybe on the nose. We've been talking about gifts, and I think it's one of the things that we as Outliers all have in common. I think we as people have a common. I think Outliers, we decided to put that gift out into the world, and say, how do we continue to grow the seed of this here? And so my ask here is that I want you to think about one person in your life right now who has an incredible gift, or who is trying to figure out what to do with that gift, or continue to is looking to see how they can up level with it. And I ask that you share this episode with that person with intention. Going back to this element, who's the community that's ready to receive this gift? I ask that you find that one person in your world right now and share this conversation with them. We call it the one person, one conversation at a time initiative, and it's all around our, like, larger movement of belonging, to help people know that you're thinking of them. And I honestly look at this as a gift, just like not the episode itself, but the thought, like letting someone know that they are not alone out there. And you brought this over to them. So I ask that you join us in the one person, one conversation at a time initiative, and you intentionally share this episode with someone that you feel it would really make an impact to. I'm thrilled if you want to also go and share this on all of your platforms, and share, like, tell the world about it. Those things feel good, and it's great to get this out in front of a lot of different people. But if we can also make a big impact with it, I think we'll go really, really far. All right. So it means the world to me if we can share it with one person who this is really for. Neil, Victoria, Liv, like, y'all have been fantastic in this conversation. I want to make sure that Outliers have a chance to continue diving into your world with you. And so my ask here is that we each go around and we share the best contact information for Outliers, for them to go down that journey, and then also an insight that you got from the conversation. Don't worry about Outliers; they're taken care of now. They're good. They're going to be digesting all this here. This is about you. What's something that you are leaving this conversation with from here? And if you didn't get an insight, that's totally fine. Just say that. That's cool too. All right. So we're going to share our best contact for Outliers so they can go deeper with us, and then an insight that you're taking from this conversation. Neil, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Thank you. You can always get in contact with me at neilhopson.com, NeilHopson.com. A lot of my resources are there. And social media is at Neelytime, actually. It's my radio name, NealLytime, or you can type in my full name. Yeah, I love the conversation. I've learned a lot from you, Niiamah and Victoria and Liv. I was writing down notes actually, and I think one of the takeaways that I have and I want to share is don't despise your audience. Wherever you are right now, it's so easy to want the bigger, the better, the different group. And what God has given you right now is what you can handle and what you need to steward well. And if you steward the small things well, then eventually you'll get more added to you where you can steward that well. But it is a responsibility. And the greater responsibility you have, the more discipline that you need. And the greater influence you have, the more discipline that you need. So if you steward this audience well that you have, it could be 5 people that following you. It could be 5 clicks or 5 views. You could put out the best content ever. And you're like, why aren't people, consuming this? I don't understand it. It's just awesome. Well, keep on stewarding, keep on growing. And maybe it's not them, maybe it's you that needs to grow. So let me encourage you to keep on doing that. And in due season, in due time, things will develop and grow in the spaces they need to. But keep on doing what you can do with what you have.
Thank you, Neil. Liv, let's come to you. Would you mind sharing with us the best way that Outliers can continue with you, and then an insight you got from the conversation, if any?
So my podcast, Live in Vibrancy, is on Apple and Spotify, along with me transitioning into a visual podcast on YouTube. So you could look at me on there as well. And then my art is Spotless, Adira, on Instagram. That's where I post a lot of my creative art. So something that stood out, well, it was a lot that stood out to me. I first want to tell you thank you for even having me on here. I really do appreciate it. This was a very eye-opening experience, and I feel like this was very necessary. I picked up on a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have picked up on before. And one of the things is what you pointed out the most was the intentionality of things and showing up in a way that is needed for every season that you're in. And I think that that is the best way to cultivate the best results, not only for yourself, but how you present yourself. So I think that's the main thing that stood out to me, was just make sure that I'm showing up the best in every aspect, and also understanding too that any room that you're in, you're meant to be there. So yeah.
Thank you, Liv. Thank you for being in this room with us here and for contributing the way that you do out in the world. Victoria, we're going to come to you. Mind letting us know the best way that we can continue down with you, and an insight that you got from this conversation.
Thank you so much, Niiamah, for having me. And I'm so privileged to have had the experience of being in a room with Liv and Neil, such great individuals. And so I'm really, it warmed my heart because as a pastor's kid, I don't get to be in spaces where people are really intentional and talking about God a lot. One of the things that I took from this conversation is that the gift is not you. And the gift is not for you. I think that sometimes we spend so much time really obsessing over these gifts and really just losing ourselves in these things, not being able to understand that we can exist outside of the gift, and the gift can also exist in unison with us. So really understand what the gift is and who you are outside of the gift, or separate from the gift. Another thing that I would say is also that do not despise the days of small beginnings, right? I think sometimes we're thinking about big things. I want to see myself on top of the world. And we forget that the small things that we are doing today, everything is adding up. So if things seem that they're very small and insignificant today, that does not mean that you're not making a difference and you're not making an impact and you're not walking in your purpose. All those things are adding up to become this amazing thing that's going to happen. And one day you will look back and say, wow, I didn't know that all these small things or these conversations that I had really were leading me to this space that I am today. How you can find me on Instagram. I have a page called Girls and Women Can. All my social media handles, I just use my first and last name. That's Victoria. My last name is Tswamuno. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on TikTok barely. So you can find me on any social media platform. I just use my first and last name. That's my brand. That's who I am. So.
this is who you are. Thank you all for sharing who you are here today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm grateful to get to know you. Outliers, until the next time we talk, remember this: be you on purpose. Journey on.